I'm Cody Garrett. Hello.
I'm Zezhu. Hello.
And we're Team 21.
Yeah.
The scope of our project consisted of combining 3 databases into one centralized database. We would be dealing with 3 different types of technology exercise bands: Jawbone, Microsoft Band, and the Fitbit. We needed to have create table statements for the following: users, team, brand, and activity. We first began with creating an ERD to display the relationships of the tables. In front of you is the ERD. We have brand, which the primary key is brand ID, activity table, primary key is activity ID, and then with foreign key is user ID and brand ID. Users table with the primary key of user ID, with foreign key brand ID, and another foreign key team ID, and then a team table with the primary key of team ID. The user can have multiple activity IDs, but one activity ID can only have one user. Brand can have multiple activity IDs, but the activity ID can only have one brand.
And users have the relationship with the brand as one user can have only one brand ID, and one brand ID can have one or many users. And the users table relations to the team table by having the user ID can have only one team ID, and a team ID can have one or many user IDs.
It's also worth mentioning that between activities and the users table, we have our user IDs and brand IDs as a composite key that links the two, using both user ID and brand ID as a primary foreign key that links from users to the activities table to pull up any of the users that we're trying to find within a specific brand set.
This being said, the user ID is unique within its own brand, but not unique in the common database. Next, we'll be going over the store procedures and how they relate within the application. Each of the store procedures you can click on using a button. And after clicking on the button and displaying the store procedure in the grid, you can also click on dashboard to view it in the dashboard view. First, we'll begin with store procedures number 1, user stats. Input here for the store procedure would be brand ID and user ID. So we'll begin with picking Fitbit and user ID 1. Execute. This shows all of the wanted columns within the store procedure, beginning with user ID, first name, last name, preferred name, brand ID, brand name, steps, miles, minutes active, and activity time. This store procedure orders by the current date going to the furthest date. Once the store procedure is executed, you may go up to the dashboard button to see it in more of a dashboard view. This is a graph put together just with the user ID 1 and the Fitbit data.
Here, I'll bring it back. It's worth mentioning that due to the lack of month data that we have, you're going to see a disconnect between this graph, and as a result, I mean, the data is still correct. It's just showing a frequency at which they did the steps that they had marked up during that month. So that being said, it's accurate. That little space in between is due to the fact that we only have a little missing bit of data from, well, you know,
Empty months.
you did the project.
Next, I'll be executing the tracker team dashboard. The input for this was just strictly team ID. So we'll go to our team. This lists the team ID 21 and the following total miles, total minutes, and total steps ordered by the month. Like I said previously, after each store procedure is executed, you may go to dashboard to view it in more of a dashboard style. As seen here for months January, October, and November. Next, we'll go to brand stats. This user brand dashboard will allow you to view it just by brand ID. So we'll do a different one. We'll start with Jawbone. Okay, this lists the brand ID, which is Jawbone, month, total miles, total minutes, and total steps for all of the months in order by starting with November and ending back at the very beginning at January, specifically for Jawbone. And again, we'll go to the dashboard to view it in more of a dashboard style view. And this shows months January, October, and November. Now moving on to the leaderboard store procedures, beginning with user leaderboard. This is when you have two inputs for the sort procedure. Sort option, which gives you the option to sort by steps, miles, or minutes active. So we'll go by miles. And then also by the month you choose. And since we only have data for January, November, and December, we'll go with October and November. So here lists the total steps, total minutes, total miles for the month of November, and it's sorted by total miles, descending. So we see here that for the month of November, Wesley Strickland was the top for total miles.
Kudos on being athletic.
Yeah, good job, Wesley.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And here is another dashboard view of that exact sort procedure. Moving on to team leaderboard. Same thing as last time, we have two inputs, sort option and month. So we'll do sort by minutes this time. And month, we'll pick October. Alright, like I said before, this shows the high total miles, total minutes, total steps, but ordered by total minutes at the top. So the team ID winning for this one is team ID 3. Where's team 21? Alright, you did pretty bad, but it's fine. So back to the dashboard view. Like I said before, it is shown in a different chart or dashboard style view. Last but not least, the brand leaderboard. Two sort options like before. We'll sort by miles, and month we'll just do October again. Go. So this lays out the brand name and specifically by October and ordered by miles. So it wins for the month of October. And also, here's another dashboard view. Pretty close race, but Fitbit came out strong.
Yeah, here's the SSIS package for that we create for extracting and converting and loading data into our centralized common database. At the beginning, we used a repetitive jobs table statement and a repetitive create table statement in the beginning of the divide column because it recycles the data. So every time, so for each insertion of data, we must update the data by taking everything out and then load the data into the centralized database again. So here's the detail of our job table and create table statements. Let's scroll down a little bit. Yeah. And we used 3 different data flow tasks for extracting and transforming and loading data from the database and the CSV file that you gave us and loading to our centralized common database. So for job, a divide column was
for you.
You're going to but each data flow test, each database require different conversion, so it varies whether each database need one divide column or multiple. So for the Jawbone, you gave us the CSV file, so we can load the data from the CSV file and load it into the our centralized database. Here is this button shows the CSV file that you gave us, and then here's the data conversion that we made. It's all converted to the SQL format. And here's the divide column we made for the Jawbone table, for the Jawbone data. Step to miles conversion and add a default brand ID. And this is for this file is it's still the Fitbits. So we also add the default brand ID into our tracker user table, and then here are the data conversions for our tracker user table. Yeah. So now it's turned to extract the data from the Jawbone database. So this block is the original database from the Jawbone original database that you gave us, and then here's the divider column we made for tracker user table. Here's the data conversion for brand ID and name, and this is still name. And this block also are the Jawbone data that you guys gave us. And here are the conversion. It's about the person to user ID and the activity time and miles and the second active. And we made different divide column, such as miles to steps, seconds to minutes, and the default brand ID Jawbone. And that's all for the Jawbone database. And the third one is the final database that we need to transfer into our centralized database. And this block shows the original database for Microsoft band, and here's the data conversions, and the default brand ID value is Microsoft, like M stand for Microsoft band. And here is this bug is also the same as the OLEDB source one, and here this is transferred into our tracker activities table, and then here are the data conversions. We got some like calculations, like from such as the kilometer to mile and minutes active, and add the default brand ID value to for the Microsoft band data loading. And here the last part of the data conversion. So after we load all three brand data into our centralized database, we need a SQL task to split the full name, and L to the table to add new foreign key, and then after that we can execute the package to see.
Yeah. Is the database already empty?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead.
It won't take so long.
Takes a second.
Yeah, it takes a second. What? No, it's fine, it's fine.
Resource.
So that's all about the tools we use for extracting and transforming and loading data into our centralized database. And here's the we can show the final result that after we execute our SSIS package we use. Select.
Bam.
Yeah. And nav is to show the restore from the tracker activities. Activities table. Yo. And S2 is tracker team. And the last one brand.
This is the pop-up that comes up is a traditional message box. It's a class that is built into C#. It doesn't require any forms or anything, it's just a method that is called. So we start that up, and we're gonna go ahead to continue. Later on in this, you'll see I'll show code samples as well. All right, so we're gonna see the CSV importing. Now, we have the options to import, write, and read. So momentarily, I will show you how that happens in the code. So, well, I don't have a CSV file. That's gay. Alright, and as you can see from this point, we've got it all loaded up into data view. So we're going to scroll down, up, alright. Now we're going to write it to the database. Alright, bam, it's gone. Now we're going to read it back from the database. Bam. So we're going to take a look at the code that goes with that. So, let's get this out of the way. And get this and other things out of the way. Now, the CSV form runs through. When it opens, it runs through. Okay. The import CSV references a data binding which is built into the form, and then from there what it does is it generates the columns in the data grid view, which is predefined inside of the CSV form, as you can see right here. So there forward, we have get table from CSV file, and it takes all of the data, throws it into the method, processes it, and outputs a type of data table. And what it does from there is it loads it into the RAM, and then you are able to write it to the database based off of what you choose, and then it'll catch it if you don't have anything, and it'll give you an error, or it'll just insert it in using a method which is referenced inside of our tracker DL class, which is a very long name, but what it does is it inserts it into a temporary table called tracker.ed. Here's looking at you, Ed. And then from there, we're able to read it back, as you were able to see a second ago, with our read database button, and it binds everything with a select star statement direct from tracker ed. Alright, so next we will have another thing to show you, because explanations of code are great. We're going to go to user stats. Now, the base functionality behind each one of these buttons is that it brings up a pop-up form, which is really just an input box where we can manipulate the data that's going in. So like the brand ID, user ID, anything that comes up. And we'll go through the various ones that have different functionalities, but they're all basically the same except for the ones that contain different variables. So we're going to put in user ID 1 for Fitbit. Actually 2, because he's already gotten the honor of being that guy. So Allison Preed, you're the lucky winner of the day this time. Our brand ID is Fitbit. Now let's take a look at the code running that. Stored procedure 1. Now this is the button stuff. It's pretty cool. But when we go to the code, that's even cooler. We're going to go up and check out how we get these things and transform them around. Alright, initially we have these get methods. I think y'all call them properties or something like that. Well, what they do is they'll return the values directly back to the main form when it's called upon, and it uses the member of brand ID and just pulls it up and does stuff. You know what stuff. So convertInt is a method that I use that will take what you're trying to convert, so you make sure that the program doesn't crash, you don't have an exception, and it spits back invalid value and doesn't allow the program, well, it'll put in a value of 0 so it doesn't break it. So moving forward from there, we have our main interface, and we'll take a look at the code here. For SP1 click, it goes through a method that has been streamlined after we've gotten through the bulk of our code. We turned it all into one method, which is process request. Now in process request, we're passing in what number stored procedure we're using, because it catches, there's a whole bunch of if statements so we can have the code clean, and it passes in the name so we can continue down forward. Now process request, what it'll do from here is it'll check for what stored procedure value that we're asking for, and that one being 1, since we specified it earlier, it creates a new object for the form, which is the stored procedure 1 underscore form. Bang. Stop. That's my dog. She's loud. Anyways, we have the form.show dialog after the class has been created, and then we have the query string. Now,
Want to do it in the camera?
what we have, yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry.
This is my dog Maggie. How you doing? She's the MIS puppy who deals with all the shit that we have to put up
She
with.
actually coded the whole project.
Yeah, she's the secret to our success. But moving forward from there, what we do from that point is we assign what the axis label is, the x and y values based off of the array of the column, and then we go down to the end of the if, and now we have dashboard form, which is, oh dear. Stop. Okay, go. Go.
Go.
Bye, Maggie.
Dashboard form, which is where we are taking the data that you saw earlier that Lindsay was explaining. We click dashboard and it shows a great little chart that shows all the data manipulated into a graph. So that gets created here. It's initialized at the beginning of this form, but it's created anew and wiped clean every time process request is run. So that way that we have a consistent and empty chart, or a brand new chart every time, and that class is reused and emptied out every time we want to use it again. So we pass in the text, the query string, the set x and y, chart type, and these are all methods that have been created. These are not something that are built into C#. And then we process the chart. From there, we go directly to our dashboard.cs, and we are able to observe that these are properties that we passed in from what you saw before, and with set methods that are, actually I got that backwards, those are members, and then these are properties below. And the public void set chart type, depending on what this is, it'll set the chart type to either a column, a bar, or a line graph. And then we're able to manipulate the graph from there based on what we want the user to see. So we set the axis label, great, awesome. So now we get to the process chart. What this does is that it takes the data set from the view that we've created with the chart 1, and it takes a SQL query and turns it into a data adapter that is able to fill the data set with everything that we just done. So we have points.databind xy. As you see, we have converting that to the string x column and y column. That is the array values of the results converted to a string, which is really just a number string. And it's one value, which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do the math. It starts at 0 and goes up, like an actual array. So from there, we're able to plot these points and immediately have them show up. So that, that is what happens here. So in theory, what you're really seeing is this dashboard is initialized before these results even come up. But since we know what the stored procedure is that we're trying to execute, the stored procedure is not only referenced and executed inside of this data set that you see right here, it's also executed inside the dashboard. So that stored procedure is not mentioned more than one time, it's just passed in. So we have dashboard and that. Dashboard's executed first, and then we go on to the next one, which shows the whole data set, and it fills it all out, like you see right here. Bam. Allison doing some serious walking. So we go on down, and we see we have the binding source, the auto generation of the columns to make sure that everything's like evenly seen, spaced apart, and easy to read. And then it auto resizes, sets the border style. You can Google it. I don't have to explain yet. That's easy stuff. Not really. Anyways, moving on. We'll go on to the next part of our form that has a different statistic, or well, value. So let's see, the brand status. No, this is pretty much the same. We're going to go to team leaderboard, because this one does executes a sort option along with a month. So we're going to select steps and January for team leaderboard. Well, not January. How about a better one? Let's see, October, and we're going to choose steps. As you can see, team 3 once again killing it over there.
Where are we?
Like probably at the bottom. We're the we're the people that spend more time doing our project.
Yeah.
Well, and then team 2 is the one that probably spent time doing nothing. Just kidding. Now we go down to what was that? Sort of procedure 4, or no, that's team leaderboard. So 5. As was mentioned earlier, it all goes through a process request method. The only difference this time is that we have a if catch there where we find out what car they're sorting by, which is either steps, distance, which is miles, or minutes, which is M. S, D, and M. Acronym, wherever you like. Super go-tree man. Axis label, we are going to apply that, and then it's going to detect, like this get axis method was also something that was created so we wouldn't have redundant code in. But what it does is it sets the label based off of what our sort option is. Since we have 3 other stored procedures that do this. So we have this set so it's just called and not repeated. That way, if we really need to edit it, we can have it there and change later. And it edits everything all at once. So that being said, we go to get access to sort option, come down at the end, we create a new dashboard form.txt, all that gone all over again, just like you saw before. And it creates the data view, and then you're good to go, and you have what you see right here. Now, it's worth mentioning that with this code, there was a lot of cleaning done, and posthumously before we actually did any of this, the code was all over the place. But as you can see, it's easy to take whatever we've done before, and you don't see that obviously, but it was probably over 600 lines. We'll go with that number, and we condensed it all down to one ID with a method. So that all being said, we were able to show how that works. And now let's get to one last tidbit for those who don't understand how SQL connections work in between databases and forms in C#. And databases and any kind of programming in C# in general. So we're going to come to tracker.dl or tracker.dl.cs. Alright, so we have our connection string that we've been declaring in every one of our methods for forms so far. Well, yeah. And what it does is we've got it set as a private, but we also have a property that will pull it so anywhere that needs it can be used inside the application. So the connection string, as you can see, MIS230, blah, 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 words. And then we have a generic get data command that will basically return a data table every time. So you can insert any kind of query and it will return a data table. This makes it a very versatile plugin or method, so we're able to execute anything, like create any new buttons, any new views. It'll only take less than a second, and well, more than a second, but you had a big computer. But you run the get data, you insert an SQL command, and it uses that connection string all for you, and you're done. So moving on to the last little bit, we have the ed table. It's not very significant, other than the fact that we're using it to insert as a test table to show that we're inserting our CSV files, and it also references SQL connection. So that all being said, we've had a pretty good time doing this project, and it's been difficult, and we've had our challenges, but honestly, it's been a pretty fun project. I mean, what would y'all say?
Yeah, we worked really well together. So
Yep.
That's
everybody
it.
have a great
Thank you for watching.
happy
Thanks.
coding.
When I met you in the summer.